first question is, so we can just get straight right on in there, is first question is, who are you? In any way you'd like to answer, who are you, Jonny?
It's always a tricky one because
Yeah,
my
right?
instinct is, my instinct is to go in with, well, I work in this, I do this. To talk about what I do rather than, who maybe I am. I was talking to someone yesterday about the whole concept of human doings versus human beings.
Yes.
You know? And I'm aware now that my answer is completely gone off. maybe that's intentional. Again, I keep talking about the location that I live in, but particularly living in a big city like London, and all the people that I meet all the time, it is very kind of on the surface conversations,
Sure.
because people are afraid to be vulnerable.
Right. And that's the challenge, right? We're in a city, things are moving very quickly. There's not often the calibrated space in which sharing is offered, because generally people are just in a rush to get to their next doing. We mentioned earlier on this exploration between human being and human doing, and that this will, just to frame this up, this will form part of a very strong kind of chord, a very, very fundamental part of the facilitation that I will be bringing, will be this human being versus human doing. And that's interesting that you mentioned it, because that's 100% coming up in the workshop. How will your part of the workshop, specifically your talk, how will that part of the workshop help the participants to explore more about themselves?
So I come in at quite early on in terms of the retreat, and so I see my kind of role as trying to help to open up the space in terms of people being vulnerable and open and honest. Again, going back to like what I said, really trying to get to the heart of things. I mean, so I'm coming in and being very frank and honest, and sharing my own personal journey, my struggles, and there's been some real difficult moments in my life, some real tough, a lot of tough times. I mean, I'm in a different place now, but if I can come in and be very honest about my experiences, I hope that can then help other people to also reflect on themselves, and hopefully bring out their honesty and vulnerability and openness.
For anyone that's new to such a sort of exploration, there's just no expectation of anything for anyone in this work. So if it's the first time, then it's actually just to be like, if we can just notice one thing about ourselves that we didn't know before, then that's already putting us a light year ahead of where we were, sat back in the dark, not knowing what's going on and not being able to see ourselves clearly. So really the invitation from over here is the first step is to start to look at yourself. There's a real felt sense of, for every single one of us that's involved as a participant, in terms of collaborator and someone who's facilitating, or sharing a breath workshop, or sharing a movement class, or sharing a talk, or over here sharing some slides and throwing out some really challenging questions, because that's my role, is the sort of, it's like fire starter, like blow the embers underneath the process and start things off. That the energy behind it all, that everybody just seems to be so kind of forthcoming in their support of what the potential is for this workshop, because there seems to be such a need for it, and it's such a sort of white elephant almost. It's like it's so obvious, and yet we don't talk about it. We don't. It takes years for this stuff to be processed. So it's what comes for me is, it's like an intergenerational clearing. So the more clear we are, the more clear that the next generations get to be, and they don't have to battle through the same things, because it's all, you said the word unnecessary. It is so unnecessary.
Someone said to me, I was in group therapy, and someone said to me, they said, Jonny, why do you, because I think I must have said something like, I'm depressed, I'm really depressed. And someone in this group therapy said, Jonny, why do you say I'm depressed? And this person said to me, you'd never say I'm cancerous, you'd say I have cancer. And that was a real like moment for me, because I was like, oh gosh, why do I do that? Why
Yeah,
do I say I'm
why am I wearing that like it's my thing? Like that's my
yeah,
identity. That is my identity now, right? Suddenly like
sure.
I am this.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, exactly.
when I'm this, I'm not that. So then there's another separation immediately. Just because you're this, you're not that, right? So then you don't have permission to be happy. You don't have the
Yeah,
right to find joy in life because you're wearing this kind of
sure.
cloak of
Sure.
depression, right?
Absolutely. And
Yes.
it's I mean it is consuming. It's consuming.
It's like
Mm,
we can either be it or we don't have to be it. Like we don't have to be had by this thing called identity. And that's the whole offer from the workshop really is like
mm,
seeing self clearly, being able to make clearer choices, being able to relate more fluently and more deeply with those around us, whether they are workmates or partners or parents or nieces, nephews, whatever's going on, and just to be like less um, almost had by words that might mean something to us but that don't mean anything to anyone else. And so there's all these potential trigger points that we've got going on almost every 3 seconds of the day, in
sure.
thoughts, in words, in images. And so really
Sure.
as we start to unpack, that's why that question came, was just to what's true for you in that exploration.
There's a lyric in Verve's Bittersweet Symphony which goes, I'm a million different people from one day to the next. And
Yes.
I don't know, I just really resonate with that because yeah, there's so many facets to me. And therefore, I don't know, I've stopped kind of labeling myself uh, for a while now, or stop trying to cling on to different identities, which might kind of go against your question about, who do I identify with?
You've mentioned that you work in the charity sector. I know that you have your own charity actually, and it's would you tell us the name of it? And you just did a relaunch, right?
So it's called Beyond, and the charity is very much focused on mental health, but getting in there early on in terms of help and support. From my experience and from the experience of so many other people, when it comes to mental health, we treat it so differently to our physical health. If you have a physical health emergency, like you fall over and you hurt a part of your body, or you have a lump that appears on your body and it gets bigger and you I'm generalizing, but most people, they're not gonna wait and think, oh, I'm just gonna walk around on this broken leg. They'll go and deal with it straight away. But when it comes to our mental health, so often push it away. I don't want to deal with this. Don't need to deal with this. This isn't important enough. I've got other important things. So our charity is about, I guess what we call the prevention side, or the early intervention, a really early intervention side of treating, whatever you want to call it, mental health struggles, getting in there early on. Because I know that if I would have got help early on for my own personal struggles, then I think things probably would have been a lot. I know they would have been a lot different, but I didn't have the knowledge or the tools to. I didn't know where to start in terms of getting help and support.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, change that.
In closing, just to frame this up for the workshop, there will be an expansive conversation about what's available for everybody wherever they're at in their journey, whether there's a need for counseling or therapy or coaching. It's a really expanded conversation because there's things, every single human being's got something. And self-aware people, by the way, doesn't make them like self-graduated from spiritual academy, right? This is like, they're self-aware just means that they can see their stuff. It doesn't mean that they're then perfect. So the offer is to like come into the workshop and be very clear about that there's no expectation of needing to be anywhere in the process. So I'm really looking forward to experiencing the sharing with you and the other participants. And very, very, very honored and pleased to have been introduced to you, to be able to share this time as well.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to it, actually. Really look forward to it. I can't wait to get started and
Get
kind
stuck
of
in.
yeah, get stuck in and see what comes from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really excited. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So Create Space Retreats, a series of workshops specifically bespoke tailored for gay men. And the series will be popping up over the summer.